The opinions and viewpoints expressed in .NET Rocks are not necessarily those of its sponsors, or of Microsoft Corporation, its partners, or employees. .NET Rocks is a production of Franklin's Net, which is solely responsible for its content. Franklin's Net, training developers to work smarter. Rockheads, get your cosmic geek belts on and listen up. It's time for another stellar episode of .NET Rocks, the internet audio talk show for .NET developers with Carl Franklin and Richard Campbell. This is Jeff Maciolik, here to announce show number 108 with guests Glenn Podany and Grant BlahaErath, recorded live Friday, April 8th, 2005. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net, training developers to work smarter, and now offering hands-on VBNet and ASP.NET classes remotely. Online at www.franklins.net. And by Telerik RAD Controls, the UI essentials for rapid ASP.NET development. Online at www.telerik.com. Support is also provided by Code Magazine, leading independent magazine for .NET developers. Online at www.code-magazine.com. And now, the man who recently won first prize in a contest for writing the best code with his nose, Carl Franklin.
Thank you very much, and welcome to .NET Rocks, the internet audio talk show for .NET developers. I am your host, Carl Franklin, here in New London, Connecticut, on a beautiful, beautiful spring evening on the east coast of the United States of America. And on the west coast, just slightly above the United States of America, is my friend, my partner in crime, Richard Campbell. How are you, sir?
Just fine, Matty. It's a beautiful day out here on the West Coast as well. How did that happen? I don't know.
I really don't know, because usually it's either raining or sleeting here and beautiful there, or the other way around. And you actually have better weather out there than we do, I think.
We had a rough week. Today's the only sunny day.
So what have you been up to this week, Richard Campbell?
Well, I've been hanging around, getting ready for Tech Ed, getting airfares booked, because I'm gonna fly into Hartford beforehand and visit with you. And I've been involved with MSDN Canada and the lastdeveloper.com, or it's actually lastdeveloper.com, it's only a Canadian contest. I'm sorry, it's only a Canadian contest, but that's what it is. They're doing a question and answer type contest that's got some pretty serious prizes at it.
Wow.
The winner will get $25,000 worth of goodies.
Wow. Is that for...
Yeah, they've worked up quite a show for that, and the contest is just getting started now.
Fantastic. Well, I have been teaching this week to 5 in-house people and 1 in San Diego, and Eric, who is my San Diego student this week, started an infectious little thing. You know when somebody uses a phrase over and over again and it sticks, and sometimes you can define a whole country with it, like mate in Australia or a in Canada. This guy used the word ruckus to describe, bullshit or just what's all that noise all about, And so it's stuck, and we've all been using it all week long, So he said, "What's the deal with all that web service ruckus in there?" So it's a
ruckus.
Yeah, it's a great word, and I've started using it now, and I can't stop. You're
hooked.
I'm hooked.
And you're a ruckus guy now.
Well, there's so many good words that aren't necessarily, bad words, but they sound bad, but they're totally perfectly acceptable, but they're good words, Like when you're really mad at someone, you say, "Bite me." It's harmless, but it's so great to say, It feels so good. But, ruckus. That's another one of those.
What's up with this .NET Rocks ruckus?
That's right. So we got, Richard, I know that you've been really impressed with the amount of fan mail that you get as a co-host of .NET Rocks. It just never ends, and every day.
I'm a rookie co-host, and I am staggered at the amount of email every day. And not that I'm saying don't send it. It's a lot of fun, and it's very interesting stuff, but I'm just amazed. Now I know why you're like that, Carl.
Like what, man?
You're very, actually, I'm going to give you a compliment here. You're very careful with your humility, and I can see why it's a concern, because people send you messages every day telling you how great you are. Next thing you know, you're carrying your ego around in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, well, I can't fit in the door as it is for other reasons, but, the head doesn't need to be that big. You're right. But I love the email, and we respond to it all, even if we don't read it on the air. But there was one email that was particularly interesting this week that I wanted to read from Andrew Weber, and he says, "Hi, Carl. I've been meaning to email you for some time. The reason I'm emailing you now is because I was on the bus to work today, and next to me was Benjamin Mitchell. I thought I would only have known who he was because I listened to your show. In fact, I attribute being an intern at Microsoft to your show because I've been listening to your show since one of your earlier shows with Pat Hines. I learned all about how and why .NET is important from your show. I come from a Java background like most people coming out of the university these days, and I actually went out and worked in Australia as a contractor. For moving my skills as a Java developer to .NET, I implemented a help desk system there in just 1.5 months from only learning .NET a couple of months before. In true DNR fan mail style, I'll cut the crap and get to the stuff. I worked in the platform developer support unit for MSDN and Premier subscribers, and I think you should have a show with us guys. You have your celebrities, but there are some really interesting stories in my world too. I'm sure your audience would like to know how MSDN support is handled, how we help out your guys, and how it gets back into the product groups for fixing bugs and such. One great story was we had a customer who implemented a power station control system running on Windows 98 exposing services over sockets, and the business impact of not helping the customer's issue would have been a nuclear catastrophe. Wow.
That's pretty serious software.
That's pretty serious. Other interesting cases include how we have to deal with VB6 customers who raise issues over moving to .NET, WMI, LDAP, GDI+, security, etc. We also have to be ready to support Whidbey and Longhorn, so we have a very good understanding of the technologies there. To be honest, we're all interested in Longhorn fundamentals. To us, Avalon is where we should be with UI, having it pump via DirectX. If anyone's ever done any DirectX-enabled user controls, Avalon isn't that new, only that it's easy to do what you did before. There are a lot of interesting projects that will soon arise when Longhorn ships. I'm working on a .NET Grid computing API that, let me do that again. I'm working on a .NET Grid computing API that allows you to decorate code with attributes, and instantly your code executes on the network thanks to Windows services and extensions. Its code name is Data Swarm. That sounds really cool, doesn't it?
It does sound nifty.
I also have a blog where I post issues that customers have been asking and solutions to them, as well as Data Swarm at shrinkster.com/4NM. That's 4 Nancy Mary. Check it out. No way as interesting as CSS Zen Garden, but then what is? I don't think it's fair that I receive mindless crap, although I've always wanted to, but as I get enough of that working here, it's cool, man. Wish you all the best with your shows, Andrew. Well, Andrew, we're going to send you a hoodie, man.
Yeah, I think you have to.
We got to send you a hoodie. So thanks for that.
And it's a great idea to do some shows around areas of Microsoft. I think people are very interested in it, which kind of segues into what we're doing tonight, isn't it?
Exactly. We've got a couple of guys from the Microsoft Customer Lab, Grant BlahaErath and Glenn Podany. Grant BlahaErath, we're going to find out about that name, which is very cool, is the technical manager for the Platform Adoption Center at Microsoft. He has been a software developer for 20 years at companies like Electronic Arts, Autodesk, Mattel, and Broderbund. Gee, Rich, you think we could score a few games?
I'm thinking. I played a lot of Broderbund in my old days.
Most recently, he was the chief software architect for the Dublin, Ireland-based company Riverdeep Incorporated. Microsoft made a case study of one of the products he worked on at shrinkster.com/4NL. That's 4N as in Nancy L. Glenn Podany grew up in the Pacific Northwest. He's a graduate of Matteo Ricci College with a Bachelor of Arts from Seattle University. He served in the United States Air Force, too. He began his technical career in 1991, supporting remote access host connectivity solutions, then onto corporate networks, supporting Windows clients host connectivity to 3270 and 5250 environments. Glenn joined Microsoft in 1998, supporting resources leveraged by the Microsoft Technical Field Sales Organization. He's been a test lead, program manager, product manager, and his current position is lab manager of the Platform Adoption Center in Building 20. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
So which one is Grant, which one is Glenn? And you know I'm going to confuse you guys, right? Sorry.
It's interchangeable. I'm Grant, though.
Okay. And I'm Glenn.
Okay, Glenn has a little bit more of a high-end EQ on his voice for any of those audio files out there. But you do have, familiar-sounding names. But Grant, I'm interested in your last name because I asked you at the beginning. Now it's BLAHA capital ERATH, BlahaErath.
Yeah.
And I asked, is that like a cultural name? So what's the deal with your last name?
Well, I married my wife. Her last name's Erath.
That's a good thing to do to your wife, really.
Yeah. And we decided to change both our names. And, sometimes people will hyphen, but then the computers will lose half the name.
Oh.
So
you
we
joined
decided
them.
to stick them together.
Very cool.
Make them into one word.
Make them into one word. But, we want to sort of keep the essence of the family lineage, so we capitalize the E. That still gets lost.
Yeah.
Right? But
I'm sure the capital dies all the time.
Yeah, it does. But it's a lot of fun to try to convince people to put the E in. I was successful in getting Microsoft's IT to do so when I started here. So so far I've been pretty lucky.
It certainly makes helps people remember you. That's for sure. I've never ever seen anything like that. It's very cool.
The other side effect of doing this is it's a GUID.
That's right.
So it's totally unique. If you search the web and if you Google me, you'll just find me.
You're always going to be at the top.
Or my wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw a word like that come out of SN, Strong Name Utility.
There you go.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. It's very good.
Very good, very good.
And then speech recognition, it just, all you have to say is Grant blah, 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 and it finds me. It's really irritating.
All right, guys. So what is the customer lab all about? Why do you exist?
Well, let's see. How do we do this? Grant, what did we say yesterday?
Yeah, we make it up as we go along.
Changes every day?
Yeah. No, it's the lab is about, well, we call it a center. It's a Platform Adoption Center,
okay.
I think. Because lab is a little too confining to what we do here.
Sounds like you have beakers and test tubes and stuff,
You're experimenting on customers.
Right.
And in Microsoft parlance, it's usually a test facility, a lab for testing, right? We don't do that at all here. We don't do any testing.
Okay.
What we do is we introduce Microsoft technologies here, usually often for the very first time outside of campus.
Wow, okay. And is this, it's a customer center, so do customers come to you to sort of work through their issues or with new products, or how does the customer get involved?
Customers and partners is really important. It's definitely hugely in partners as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way they get invited, usually they're usually pretty well known to whatever segment of the market that they're in, and they're usually pretty much they're more the social set of the geek set.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that generally have some visibility
and bathe
and bathe. Yeah, I could guarantee that they talk to people.
Right.
Oh, right.
And actually like it.
Yeah, and actually
Okay.
like it. They don't hide. So they get invited by
Okay.
product development teams, and they get nominated by the field. So we have all kinds of representation outside in the field and in our local area. They'll recommend someone for something or another.
Sounds very Ascend-like as well.
Yeah. Yeah, very much.
Really, there's, TAP. You've heard of TAP?
Yeah, TAP
Sure.
is the precursor to Ascend.
There
Right.
you go. There's a lot of TAP events that actually are held in the facility.
Right.
And then there are things that you wouldn't even call a tap. They're, say they had a new version of, .NET was shown here for the first time.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah, when it's not really even a product per se yet, you get a chance to take it out for a spin with some regular mortals.
Or
And this-
maybe it's just PowerPoint.
Oh, really early in the spin.
Yeah, I mean, at one point when I was in ISV, I was brought out here just to kibitz on the schema for WinFS.
Right. So it's really a sort of a place where you can bring external people in to talk about and work with Microsoft products in whatever state they may be developing, and you just have everything you need there to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. It's like kind of like Microsoft's living room in a way.
Yeah,
You
it's
invite
right here
people
on-
over for tea.
You wouldn't necessarily invite the press, would you? These would be more of partner companies that...
Well, actually, the press does come, but it's usually the product teams are not at the stage where they're talking to the press. They're usually waiting. At this stage, they're more in the let's figure out what features are missing in the product before we finish development on it.
So what does it look like? I mean, what kinds of rooms do you have? What kind of cool stuff do you have there?
Oh,
So we have about 30 individual rooms we call labs that house about 4 people. So it's like an office,
Okay.
and we staff that with equipment, hardware. We have different types of hardware that comes from different vendors, and we'll build up the platforms for each individual event based off the event owner's requirements. And so they change. These machines change on a weekly basis.
Okay.
and then we have training rooms. We have 4 different training rooms here. That the largest one seats about 70 students and has computers in it.
Oh, interesting.
So all hands-on labs.
Yeah, for hands-on labs, and then we have
Structured
other
lab,
rooms.
Yeah.
So do you have like the one-way mirror rooms as well?
No, we don't do usability studies.
Check out customer number 72. Unauthorized access of a Linux server. I've seen some of those rooms that that there's a room on the campus. I don't know what it is, but it's like an auditorium style hands-on lab where everybody's got a it looks like there's like a stage and it's a half circle. I think the picture of Steve Cellini's back that we have on the website is taken from there. And I don't know if that's in the same area, but the rooms that you guys come up with over there are just insane.
Yeah, this place is a little more relaxed.
Okay.
We try not to do intense, usability. We're more interested in starting good conversations. And,
That's cool.
So we provide an environment as well where companies like an ISV will bring their code.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about that. What typically, give me a story of something that happened recently. You don't have to name names, sir, but what would that be like?
Oh, there was one company coming in using some new bits for Visual Studio 2005, and they built a lot of SOAP services, and you name it. It was kind of complex. There's like 3 or 4 machines and several tiers, and a lot of services, and running SQL Server 2005 as well. And they came in and they were debugging, basically, with the help of product development, different parts of their application that were maybe either not documented well in Microsoft bits yet, or really were bugs, and they ended up finding a whole bunch of weird bugs and adjusting some features so they were more clear.
Interesting.
Now, I mean, it sounds like you were helping them with their app. What did Microsoft get for that?
I know that you don't just give this away. What is that? What does that run you?
I guess, of course, it's all Whidbey Yukon stuff, so you're getting a chance to see the new bits, the raw bits in action, third party.
Exactly. There's like two benefits out of the whole deal. One is, this is a way for Microsoft to engage the users of the product in advance, so they just don't get stuff dumped on their doorstep one day that doesn't work for nobody.
But this was not a tap or a send relationship.
This
might have
been a tap. I think this might have been a tap relationship.
Okay, but the difference now is that these guys came up to Redmond with their software and set it up on your gear and got a chance to take a look and see what was going on.
Behind closed doors, right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess under NDA in both directions.
Yeah, NDA in both directions, hence no names.
Now, there was a lab up in Waltham, Massachusetts, near Boston. Do you guys know the one I'm talking about?
I've been to that lab.
Is that like an MTC? Or?
Yeah,
it is.
It was.
Oh, no, it's not a training center. It's they're performance labs.
Yes,
There's one in San Jose. There's one in Austin, and there's one up in outside of Boston.
They had a huge room, and I think they closed it down. But they had a huge room where there was space for like 50 computers and a hands-on lab. I know I taught a class there, and then they also had these little rooms like you're describing, where companies brought in just like you said, brought in their code in their machines, and they worked alongside Microsoft consultants and stuff to sort of work through bugs and stuff, and they paid a premium for it. But I mean, talk about great service. I mean,
this is right here on the Redmond campus in the heart of Redmond, or the heart of the Microsoft campus, and so the product groups are right here. They just love it when the customers come in and.
I guess your access to resources could not be better.
It couldn't be better.
Pick up the phone and go have lunch with whoever.
Exactly.
They come to the facility and have lunch. Absolutely.
And the people that visit here, they don't experience any charge.
Really?
Yeah, but they really have to be doing. We're not talking about the top 1,000 people. We're not talking about the top 100. We're talking about the top 20.
Right. It's got to be an out there kind of work.
Yeah, they have to kind of be pushing the limit. They might have a good name. Some of them are very small operations.
Right.
1 or 2 people, but what they're doing something very interesting, something that Microsoft wants to see more of, and is generally cool and kind of pushes the envelope a lot.
Sure.
There's all these other ISVs that are very more conservative, or they're enterprises, and they're much more conservative,
right.
that might never come here because they're going to wait till the product ship.
Right. I mean, I guess there's 3 ways you either be doing something so unique nobody else is doing it, or you're doing it so early in the product cycle that you're ahead of the curve, and everybody's going to learn from what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes there are some technologies here that there are only 4 people in the world that will use it.
Right. And you want 2 of those guys in the room. Bring them all in, buy them pizza.
Because once they use the technology, then there's other technologies that flow out of that.
Right.
To the rest of the world. So
is there are there any stories you can tell naming names that we would know that without making anybody mad?
Oh, it's hard to say that.
Yeah, it's hard to say that. I'm trying to think if there were...
A lot of stuff comes through here on, basically, like I say, dual-way NDAs.
Yeah.
But, if you think of just some of the larger solutions, even in the enterprise, where you got like EMC, that's a big company, a lot of backup solutions. Think of backup vendors.
Okay.
Right.
We've had an event come through, and they're bringing in all of the partners, ISVs, that build backup solutions, leveraging Microsoft technology, and they bring both sides, the host side, or what they call it, the server side, and the receiving side. There's different technologies in that space, and they get them all together, and they all know each other.
Right, of course. I imagine they're all the tech guys, too, so they may well have all worked with each other at different times.
Most likely. Many of them, yes.
Yeah.
That and, there probably are some stories, and they get a lot of these get turned into case studies on the Microsoft site. So,
Sure.
What it can do is come up with a couple that specifically involve the lab, where they were here a lot, and then you can include links to those.
Sure.
Yeah, you bet. Well, case study is a classic example of both sides winning. I mean, I've certainly been a facilitator for case studies because my customers want the fame, and Microsoft wants the proof. So it works both ways.
I wanted the fame when I did the case study.
Exactly. I mean, that's what companies want.
Plus, I did something really hard. I wanted other people to know you could do the same thing. Which is, host your own CLR if you want.
And yeah, you're talking about this River Deep project?
Yeah.
I happen to be at the case study. I'm taking a look at it, and it's pretty amazing stuff. Like, you really took on a killer project, and Print Shop, like, you want to talk about a legacy app.
Yeah.
That app's been around a long, long time. I used the Apple II version of that app.
Oh, you did?
I did. I mean, I've been a geek forever. I've used that software for a long time.
I remember as a kid using that to print large banners on a Mac.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's tell the listeners what this is, what the River Deep thing is.
The story behind River Deep is that there were a bunch of companies, Broderbund Learning Company, Software Toolworks, Red Orb, just a billion companies. They were all bought and conglomerated into one company. And that got sold around until it ended up in the hands of Dublin-based River Deep. Okay,
so what was the study about, the case study?
The case study was about, we had Print Shop, and we were working on the next version, and I really wanted to use .NET. That was sort of my personal decision. Plus, I was the chief architect, so I really wanted to use it, but you just don't get to name your practice when you're a chief architect. You have to play politics. You have to make it so it's everybody else's idea, but we used Print Shop, and eventually I did on one little thing, and it kind of caught on. The whole dev team was using it, and we rolled a lot of features in the Print Shop that we couldn't have done in the same time frame.
So here's an app, like I said, 20 years old, all written in C++.
I was going to say, that is an old app. That's the one where PCX came from, right? Is that the one?
No. I think that came from another product, PC Paint or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a similar thing, right?
Yeah, it's literally that old. It's gone through a couple rewrites in its life, but
as well it should from a 1980s application.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but the code base we were working on was at least 1992, 93, and worse, it was two different code bases that had been from two different companies that used to compete with each other across the highway.
Oh, wow.
And they were both bought. And then they were told to jam their code bases together.
Wow.
And we called the code base Pretzel.
Awesome. I was thinking worse words than that myself.
I know, but it was a very weird code base. And so the last thing we wanted to do was rewrite it because we have to ship every year.
Right, of course. You need a deliverable.
Shipping is a feature.
But we do need to rewrite it, so why not start rewriting in .NET and figured out a way by hosting the CLR to have both versions of the application cohabitate.
Okay, now you say by hosting the CLR. What you didn't? This was on Windows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So by hosting CLR, you just mean by using .NET, right?
Yeah, using .NET and instantiating the actual .NET services inside our application.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it's just frightening when you think about that for a while, but I guess it worked brilliantly.
Actually, it's easy.
Why did you need to do that?
Well, because interop, using the standard interop wasn't going to work for us because of all these dependencies. We tried recompiling the code base, and back then, I have to tell you, if the 2.0 stuff was out, if the Windows 2005 was out, I probably just would have recompiled the whole app without any failure. But back then, you just couldn't do it and have it run managed interop. and the COM components weren't the right model for bringing the system up. Because literally we didn't want to plug in .NET into the other app. We wanted to start the part of rewriting it. So it's almost like two mains.
Wow.
And two control flows. And then we just wrote little bridges.
But now you're sharing a common thread. I mean, you're working in the same memory space, so all of that overhead cost of trying to interop goes away.
Exactly. Yeah, because we thought we'd be another process or something. But then when we started we were looking at ways of doing memory map files and everything else.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But actually you're in the same memory allocator, the same global malloc.
So wait a second now. Now you're hosting in C#, you're hosting the CLR, you're pulling that up. Did you then create an app domain and load some assemblies in there and you just start poking around with...
Yeah, we wrote our own app loader.
That's insane.
That's wicked. But, you think about the app. This makes perfect sense for this app. This app is all about, it's a sovereign app. It controls the desktop when it's running.
Right.
And speed of execution is what it's all about. You're pulling up images. You're manipulating them. Like, you just can't afford that overhead. This is not a business app. This is a graphics app.
And does it run in, as a Windows app, or does it take over?
No, it runs in Windows.
Okay.
We even were able to dock .NET generated control panels into the main app.
Wow.
Nice.
They're doing the same thing now in Whidbey. There's the same technique, only it's easier than what we had to do.
But you've basically set up a perfect bridge for eventually converting the whole app to .NET.
Yeah, that's literally what we did. We pick pieces and rewrite them, drop them in.
Let's get back to what you said about what they're doing in Whidbey. What are they doing in Whidbey that'll make this kind of thing easier?
Well, when you're in C++ interop, all the it just works.
Oh yeah, IJW
mantra,
technology.
All that stuff of going between a Windows handle, native handle, and going to a form or whatever, it's all handled in the compiler. So it's pretty smooth, and you could take and define a dialog, I think, and even bring up a little control in there. What we did was we wrote a little proxy window. And every time that little proxy window, that we wrote that in native code. And every time it changed, it would update the .NET control to flutter over it.
So you could do create window, and it would create a .NET control object or something like that?
No, we had
Is that what IJW does?
Create the landing proxy window, hand its handle over to .NET, and then it would create itself to float on top. We tell the proxy window not to paint.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so it would float, and if you move the main app around, it was all... So
it's .NET thunking.
That's really wild.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's kind of window thunking, but...
Yeah, it's window thunking.
That's right.
We figured it out in a day.
Wow.
I mean, this .NET made things... I became a huge .NET fan after starting to use it, and then it kind of caught on, and eventually, no one on the team wanted to write native code again.
Right.
They would dread it. They hated it. They'd go C#, yeah. And then all these features started appearing that we had cut off the list, in the early stages, when we just thought we were doing native code again and MFC and our own weird framework. And then it all came back. And other stuff, and we could add this and that. It's really easy.
Now, somehow you got from here to the Microsoft Lab. So you were saying, and this conversation started with, Riverdeep went to the labs.
Yeah,
at some point.
I engaged a lot with Microsoft during that time because I needed help about how to do the hosting and.
Right, you were doing something rather odd.
Yeah. And then my whole motivation was we were approached by Microsoft. This was Riverdeep to look at Longhorn. We were one of the first 8 companies to see it because at the time that company was one of the only large viable consumer software companies out there.
Right.
So they needed one consumer software company involved. And when I saw Longhorn and I knew about .NET, I knew I had to start writing .NET now. So that my company would be prepared for Longhorn.
Yeah.
Right. Which is just going to go even further, and you're not going to have any chance to get there in an MFC app. It's going to be impossible.
And Avalon is it's the coolest thing to happen to UI to the graphics world.
Oh, it's a huge step forward. It's almost inconceivable how much of a step forward it is.
Yeah.
The GDI's code is not that far different from the stuff we were running in the middle 80s.
Exactly. And, I've done Mac programming, and it leaves Aqua around in the dust and all the PDF crap.
It's a different league.
It's a completely different league.
Is that a technical term? PDF crap? Very cool.
Yeah.
This,
I just was speaking as, personal. I don't know if I represent, Microsoft's views on that particular statement.
Well, one of the goals as host and co-host of .NET Rocks is to get people to ruin their careers on our show. Those of you who are doing web forms development should definitely check out Telerik RAD, R-A-D, Control Suite, the UI essentials for rapid ASP.NET development, online at www.telerik.com, Telerik.com. They're a new sponsor, and we've taken their tools for a test drive here, and we like what we see. This indispensable collection of components cover the major aspects of most web applications, from the CMS backbone and the WYSIWYG editor to navigation, content rotation, and charting. Telerik has just released version Q1 2005 of the RAD Control Suite, which features new major versions of their tree view, panel bar, and charting components. The company has been prominent for frequent releases, so you can expect something new every month. RAD Controls is not merely a collection of ordinary controls, but rather a value set of products, many of which are market leaders in their respective categories. They've received a number of industry awards and recognitions. Moreover, as of June 2004, a modified version of their flagship control, the HTML content editor called RAD Editor, has been made available by Microsoft as a replacement of the default HTML placeholder in Microsoft Content Management Server 2002. All the individual controls can also be purchased separately. If you only need navigation components, for example, you can opt in for the subset called RAD Navigation Suite. A subscription option is also available, which entitles you to new products and free updates for 1 year. So you should definitely check them out. Telerik RAD Control Suite Q1 2005 for ASP.NET at www.telerik.com. I like the way this case study starts off with situation, and it says, there's an old joke that asks God how God was able to create the world in 7 days. The answer, he didn't have an installed base. That's pretty good.
I really like that case study for that.
So it sounds like you must have liked the lab because you changed jobs for it.
Oh, yeah. I think... it's fun here.
Yeah.
Being a software architect and a chief software architect, that's a tiring job.
It's a job. It's a real job.
Yeah. It's a real job, and it's not just sitting around and getting the code, which is fun.
Right.
No, it's sitting around and convincing people who don't really know a whole lot about technology that this is the right direction, and then all the people who are coding view you as useless deadweight.
Right. And you're busy trying to herd them in a direction and keep them paid.
Yeah, and the only way you get anything done is if they believe your credibility. You see, you're always working on being right.
Yeah.
And now I could come here and it's fun. I get to talk to really cool. I mean, other chief software architects come in here, right? And I get to have great conversations with them. I'm exposed to every great technology that Microsoft has, in its early stages. It's this job's like a vacation for me.
Sure, and of course you're not only seeing the new technologies, but seeing what weird things people have come up with that you want to try and do with them.
And speaking of weird things that people have come up with, have you ever, has anybody ever come into the lab and said, yeah, take a look at this way that I got around this issue or whatever, and that resulted in some architecture and code being added to Windows or the framework or anything else? Does that happen often?
There I'd have to ask different product groups, but where I've seen a lot of influence has definitely been in Whidbey and how some of those APIs are written. Okay. Because someone will have gone through a very convoluted way, and then they'll suggest something very succinct to do the same thing. But I can't give a specific example there. So,
but it's a classic case that the guys are out in the field trying to solve these problems, and they just have a different take on it.
Yeah, right, and I could talk to my personal experience, which was I was able to give all kinds of neat ideas, and there was one time when I was here and with a whole bunch of other high-powered chief architects from all the other major software vendors. And we were stuck in a room for 3 days talking about a particular technology, and that's when I realized that Microsoft, for a little bit of food, and was getting millions of dollars of consulting.
Yeah, indeed. That is
the truth. We all had this vested interest to make sure Microsoft did it a certain way, and that happens a lot here. And another kind of group that we bring in is often I've seen a group of Perl developers come in here.
Wow.
And talk, and a bunch of Apache developers come in. In other words, we try to embrace other groups out there, both to get good feedback from them and get good ideas, and there's that secret marketing thing about trying to co-opt them, but really it's not what it's about at that stage.
Right.
It's really about trying to make sure you have a really cool product.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting insight into why these guys like their tools.
Yeah. You gotta embrace your user base, and you can't embrace them, long distance via mass marketing and all these other things.
Right.
You have to bring them in and talk to them.
Yeah.
Play a little Halo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shoot at each other with rocket launchers, and then you're buds.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no better bonding experience than mutual disintegration.
Exactly.
I have a question from the chat room from Mike M. in Florida. He says, being a C++ programmer myself, I'm wondering, when Longhorn comes out and I'm developing software for it, for, say, my dad's lottery ticket printing company, why would I need to use native code interop?
Well, with Longhorn, not with that kind of app, you'd never have to do it. The native code interop, you use it for a couple reasons. One would be, what?
Or maybe not.
No. You just draw a blank when you're on the air.
I hear you.
And
that's what editing's
that happens
for.
to Carl all the time.
Yeah, I live for that, man.
And you get there's a kind of sometimes a performance level thing to stay native, but it's not performance where you think you need it. It's performance more at kernel level behavior.
Okay.
Or close to kernel. And there you'll be surprised. Most apps don't need this. So managed code is I think the future of the platform, and I really see it as a major Well, okay, a half step towards the next level. I think whatever fixes software development today will be something done with managed code.
Amen.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
I got another question from Buddy Lindsay from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is kind of interesting. How many people have you converted from an open source standpoint to using Microsoft tools?
I don't think that's probably a metric you actually keep.
Well, we have a little altar here. You know,
Put your hands on the screen.
with a little picture of Bill Gates, and and we have little pictures of a flightless bird, kind of groveling. No, but seriously, I don't think you convert anyone from open source.
Yeah.
You use the best solutions you have available. There are some very good reasons to go with open source products, but I also think that there's some really good reasons to go with Microsoft products. And
There's some good products out there that are open source that people use.
Yeah, and certainly if you're going to learn how to write an operating system kernel in your life, you might as well crack open Linux because it's good for teaching you how to write an OS.
Yeah.
Not the best OS in the world, in my opinion, but a good OS.
But you don't have to break any laws to be able to get your fingers into it.
You don't have to break any laws. I mean, no one will learn how to write a kernel from Microsoft's kernel.
No.
Unless you're here, which is a good reason to come here. Because, you can learn to write OSs if you want.
Yeah, but the demand for new and original OSs is not exactly what it used to be.
Oh, yeah, and it totally depends where you're looking. On embedded space, there's an endless demand.
Yeah.
And Joe Stagner made a good point on this show. He said that Microsoft isn't anti-open source. They're anti-GPL, the GNU public license.
and shown by the software that Microsoft has put to SourceForge. FlexWiki and the like.
Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like, GPL's great for certain things. It's how you want to manage your intellectual property.
Or not manage it, as the case may be.
Or not manage it. I'd commit something to GPL if I thought I'd never make any money with it, but I knew it was very useful to the rest of the world. And I'm a big fan of companies taking their old code from old products, whatever happened to hijack, right? And just open source it.
Yeah.
So put it out there. Don't let it die. Put it out here so we can do something with it if we care enough.
Because it rots. It rots. Being in an ISV, I know lots of old products just get totally lost to humanity.
Yeah.
So I'd really put a bid out there for anyone that if you have old code, it's no longer part of your product line, just throw it out there.
I'd like to, I'd love to be able to just read some of the one-liners that I'm seeing in the chat room here. Long live the CLR, +1 to manage code, Kool-Aid helps, free FreeBSD is good, GPL sucks, FlexWiki is cool. I mean, if you really want to get the .NET Rocks experience, man, come and hang out in the chat room during the show. That's just great.
Definitely.
GPL.dispose. That's a good one.
So, Glenn.
Yeah.
So, Glenn, what do you do?
Just listening to you guys here.
Did you know all this story of Grant, now that we've run through a chunk of his life?
Not in this kind of detail, no. But I knew about part of the name, tell you the truth.
Ah, okay.
Whole story. I only got created a little bond with him on that, since my name is also it's a Czech name as well.
Oh. Okay.
So, anyways.
So, what is it you do?
Yeah, what do you do at the lab?
I keep this place alive, keep it running, keep the customers coming in.
So, you order pizza.
Oh, we can help with that too. No, there's always groups here in our company that don't know about the resource.
Yeah.
I think that's a constant problem side of a company the size of Microsoft. I mean, just communicating inside of the organization all of the things that are going on.
Yeah, and the resources that are available, the different product groups, there's I don't know what the longevity of the actual full-time person has been, but some people have been around for multiple years and have never even heard of our facility. Yet this facility I think I came here even before I joined Microsoft, when I was still with a company by the name of Wall Data, and we were going from Windows 95 to NT4, a migration program.
Why do I know Wall Data? What was that? Rumba?
That's correct.
How's that for pulling something out of my head?
Good memory.
Just having to integrate lots of different systems for a long, long time.
That's a great solution, and
It worked like a dream.
yeah, you bring your Windows 3.1 environment and then Windows 95 and everything, and you don't have to have two screens on your desk.
I like having more than one screen.
We're talking to the toy boy
With the
here.
same computer, multi-mon, absolutely.
Yeah.
Richard, what is your monitor setup now?
I have 3 machines running 5 monitors. So the triple screen machine is 3840 by 1024. I have a single Samsung 24T running 1920 by 1200, as is the Dell XPS laptop, also running 1920 by 1200.
Crazy.
These are all tubes?
No, they're all LCDs. Otherwise, the desk could collapse.
That's pretty sweet.
Well, where's your laptop? Where's your tablet? I didn't hear a tablet.
I do not have a tablet, and there's only one reason why. The screens are not high enough resolution yet. When there's a 1920 by 1200 laptop tablet, I will have one.
Come
I've got
on.
a great setup where I've got it's a Fujitsu, and it sits in a nice little dock.
It
doesn't have a keyboard, and I have it's a multi-mon arrangement.
It's almost sacrilegious, Richard, that you don't have a tablet PC. What's
I know,
up
it's
with
something,
that,
isn't
man?
it? But I just can't stand. You know how mad I get when I read the docs on a tablet and they talk about their high resolution 1024 by 768
No,
screen.
you get 14 something by.
I just blow it. Yeah, that's the M205, which is the Toshiba.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful machine.
Yes, it is.
And it's the one I would buy if you put a gun to my head and said, buy a tablet now. But it's a couple of years old. It's long in the tooth. I want the next one.
Well, the M3 is on the market.
Yeah, just started to ship, but not any better resolution.
Have you guys done any tablet stuff at the customer lab?
Haven't seen one here yet, but I've seen some email going back and forth about it. People asking questions. So, but we've got neat experiments that we do with our customers. We actually got some new technology that's coming in around on wireless. So since we're a customer facility and we bring in, on the midst of sometimes 100 people every day from different companies and so forth, and so we have a great place for us to just pilot our own technologies.
It seems like security is the place to go with wireless these days. I mean, just everywhere I go, there's somebody on the web debunking the latest, all the ways in which these wireless hubs are insecure. Is anybody at Microsoft working on that stuff, or is that primarily the domain of the hardware manufacturers?
No, Microsoft has got solutions, and and what we're actually testing in here is a solution that will be good for public hotspots.
Oh, cool.
As well.
Wow.
But it's very secure. There's none of this, because in hotel Wi-Fi usually you can scan the local network and find all the other laptops connected.
Right.
Oh, sure. Well,
and if Dad's away from the laptop, Junior will be able to go in there and run all his cracks and break into all the laptops. So it's a real problem.
Happens all the time. Well, I find it doesn't take that long when I show up at a hotel to find somebody who's thrown up their own access point to their $10 a day DSL, and I just use that.
Exactly. And I could power on in my apartment complex and pick up, 20 different.
Yeah. It's actually been a mission of mine, going from friend to friend, actually securing their wireless networks. Non-technical friends, admittedly, but,
Yeah, but there are some very, very cool technologies, and then, Microsoft has something called IPsec, runs out of Active Directory, and it encrypts all your communications.
You don't find that in your hotels, though. I had a guy in my class who brought this little device that we've actually talked about. I think it was on Mondays. I can't remember if it was .NET Rocks, but it was one of the Richard the Toy Boy segments, and it's one of these Linksys wireless hubs routers that is hackable, or at least not hackable, but you can actually get in and reprogram it.
Yeah, it's running Linux.
Yeah, running Linux. And this kid brought it with him so that he could get wireless at the hotel, because he just sits and runs it, runs a program on it, and within 5 minutes, he's hacked the 128-bit web key to the hotel wireless thing. So, and I said, you don't have that thing on in here, do you? He said, no. But you know, it's just really hard to keep up with that kind of stuff. And
so we got some cool stuff like that happening. It's kind of neat to be able to have our own hardware, or our own software solutions, I should say. You know, being able to prototype right here in our own facility.
And so the ISVs bring the gear in to take out for a spin?
Well, no, they just bring their own laptops in, their own tablets, right? Their own wireless built-in tablets. And we send them straight out on the internet. They can go right to their company if they wanted to.
Hey, who are some of the people that we might know that actually come into the lab and help with stuff? Are these?
Well, Carl, you're an RD, right?
Sure,
we both are.
You've been here, man.
I haven't been to the lab. No.
But sometimes we get those that type of people in here. But and they're usually the most rambunctious lot is the RDs.
I mean, from Microsoft, like who would come in from a product team that we would know? You know, like Jeff Richter come down and start ripping apart your kernel, or you know what?
Oh, dude. Let's see. No, I haven't seen Jeffrey Richter yet. But we do get, let's see. Name some former RDs that have suddenly become part of Microsoft. Let's see.
Trying to get Kevin over here, actually.
Yeah, Kevin definitely be one of them.
Right.
He'll be here soon enough. He wouldn't come over for the show. No.
Oh, yeah.
Well. But,
okay.
We're worrying about Kevin. We have this impression that he's finally starting to choke on the fire hose.
Yeah.
You run in, you guys a little rugged?
He's in our group. He's great. I love Kevin. Yeah, you know, one good place is like, okay, we had Scott Guthrie in here.
Okay.
You know, PM for, you know.
We know Scott.
Yeah, we know him.
You know Scott. So he's been here. He even did a tour of this place. It's a cool tour. It's on the Channel 9 website.
You can get to it on our MSDN site, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to MSDN.
Oh, yeah, we have a link to it on our site.
Yeah.
So
under videos.
I guess he's now I'm being corrected via IM. He's a PUM, product unit manager. So he's even bigger than a product manager. I don't want to.
Okay.
He's big. And he's cool. And let's see. Other names.
That's all right. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I know. I draw blank on
you get the solutions come through, which like Matt was talking about earlier, where we get a chance to see, Avalon first time it's being introduced. Or not necessarily first time, but where they're actually doing design reviews. So it's not just where we hold different types of events, right? So, might be a software design review or even a standards event.
Yeah.
We like events coming through this week. That's just a small group of people that are not small group, but there's people that are doing UPnP standards, and Microsoft participates within that organization. And then they need places to host an event.
Who's going to do cool stuff with Avalon?
Who?
Yeah, what companies? Or
I can't say yet, but
that cool.
Everyone.
So you have a lot of interest in Avalon.
Yeah, we had an Avalon event here, and it was a who's who of the majors.
Wow!
So I think Avalon's very exciting. People are really starting to get an idea of what it was, or what it will be,
what it can do for us.
Yeah, what it can do for us.
So you think that business applications are going to look like Halo in a couple of years, or?
I don't know, but I've had a few board meetings that look like Halo.
But you know, as a system for information representation, it really opens the doors up. So yes,
sweet.
There will be business apps built on Avalon.
Yeah.
They won't be all candy.
Yeah.
They'll be using multiple layers of transparency for different to emphasize different things over others, and and to browse data sets and things like that. Very critical stuff.
Don't you think along with Avalon comes like the learning about graphical, information? There's a lot of people who aren't UI designers who are, who have done business applications who are now sort of learning all about how the eye finds things and gets confused and like how to present information visually, because I don't see that there's a lot of people that know about that. I think Mark Miller may be the only developer I've ever met who has an eye for that stuff. And, I'm just saying that not to single him out, but I really don't know a lot of developers who get that. So along
There's
with
a whole class of them. They write games.
Right.
It's true.
That's the people that design the UIs for games.
Along with Avalon, don't you think people are going to learn how to do this, and we're going to have to teach that as well as using the technology?
Yeah, I think there'll be lots of people have learned how to put icons down on toolbars.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to change. They'll become more visually aware. And I think it opens up something for a class of software engineer that's both artist and software engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. I know a bunch of games developers up at EA Canada, and they do have an amazing eye for those very fine details of what makes graphics great.
Yeah, I've met some of those guys.
Yeah. We could compare names, but it would probably upset them.
Uh-oh.
What?
We have a guest in here.
Uh-oh.
Who?
Kevin.
Kevin Schuler?
Kevin Schuler is there?
Kevin Schuler. I'm going to hand him the phone. He's going to say hi.
Okay.
Here you go.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
We were
heard
just
my
talking
name
about you.
used in vain, so I just thought I'd come by and say hi.
So your ears were burning?
They were.
So for those who don't know, Kevin Schuler was a regional director and then became regional director, program manager.
That's right.
He's the boss.
He's
I'm the boss. Yeah. I'm pretty tough, too, huh?
I'll wait until you're arguing with Steve Forte before I comment.
there you go.
And also taught Dwayne Allman how to play blues guitar, and I'm not making that up. That's amazing.
A long time ago.
That's just amazing, man. And, not a lot of people have seen the .NET Rocks movie, so they wouldn't necessarily know that about you. So what are you doing today over there?
Well, I often come over here to what I do is I put viruses and worms in all the machines here. So Glenn and Carl, just have a really tough time. They're trying to get ready for a lab, and they're tearing out the hair, and boy, did I fix them.
So what do you do to retaliate, Glenn, or on that kind of stuff? Grant?
We just talk about him behind his back.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I handed him my microphone phone. He monopolized. I'm going to kick him out of my office.
Oh, wow.
You'll bring me a beer, will you?
Well, this place sounds like somewhere I want to come and hang out.
Yeah, Glenn, you talked about Xbox, didn't you?
We haven't talked about Xbox. No, we brought up Halo, but
well, we talked about Avalon, but we do Indigo. We got a live communication server bit coming up. Live communication server 2005 just came out.
Yeah.
We got a pretty heavy duty lab coming through here in another couple of weeks. I think we have Grant, almost 300 people coming through in a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's high volume. It's pretty crazy.
Wow. Isn't the Xbox 360 coming up?
It's another group which I've gotten to meet, and they're really cool.
Yeah.
So, they have their own setup for testing and everything. But all they do is play testing.
They're just playing video games for a living.
Yeah, they just play video games, and I met the guys that run their lab, and one of the most interesting things about their lab is they'll have 70 people, and they'll be digitally recording every session of a game.
Wow.
For all those people, and then streaming it, because sometimes the developers are some other continent, and they'll be streaming it live.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's almost as cool as Grant's new video streaming solution.
Oh, yeah, I built one, too. After I saw what they did, I built one.
You said you had to do that.
Grant, does that work for console apps, too?
Yeah.
Yeah? Cool.
It records straight VGA.
Awesome.
At 1024 768.
I was thinking maybe they ought to come out with Halo for the console app, that as a console.
With ASCII text?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Rocket launcher, 360 degrees, 15-degree deflection. Type fast.
Yeah. Not even real time. It'd be like that Star Trek game.
Absolutely, yeah.
Remember that?
Be like an Infocom game.
I played that on a Deck Writer 3 printing on ledger paper.
Oh, yeah. I built myself an S100 box, and I was playing it on there. It was really cool.
I had an S100 that had a North Star. The old North Star Horizon with the wooden sides.
Oh, yeah. I actually
here we go.
Got a Sol.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the originals.
God, that was such great gear,
Who can
too,
name the more obscure computer? There we go.
This were not obscure computers. You're just before your time there, Mr. Franklin.
I.e. obscure.
This is all CPM.
CPM, man.
And I was very excited when I upgraded my main board from 8086 to 8088.
Yeah. And I ran Microsoft Basic.
Yeah, we all did, right? That's where Microsoft was where they were supposed to be. It wasn't an OS. It was a development environment.
Yeah. That was the language.
Yeah, that's all it was. It's all different now.
Back in my day, we didn't even have punch cards. We had grains of sand. We had to put them in a line and flip them east or west if we wanted bits. Yes, sir. Those were the days.
No, we had paper tape, and we had to run the puncher ourselves.
And you had to pull it through at the right rate or it ripped.
Yeah, you have to pull it through, and then you have to rewrite. Turing, he had it right.
He knew what he was doing.
We had an abacus, and we liked it.
Oh, it's a nice little flash of geeking. I miss my North Star. It was a great machine.
Yeah, mine eventually just died. And
It got to a point where the traces were falling off the boards, and I was resoldering them, and then I had a girlfriend come by and says, that computer looks like R2-D2 barfed.
I could see little solder traces.
Oh, it's just trace wire, wire running everywhere holding it together.
Oh, man. Well, I want to ask you guys, both of you, what is the coolest thing you've downloaded lately? And don't give me, like a Microsoft product. I want something else that's out there that you downloaded that's very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's tough for me, you guys. Great, you can do this one.
Oh, well, okay. It's, let's see. It's a file sharing app. It's called Grouper. Have you heard of Grouper?
No, I haven't.
www.grouper.com. Okay, Grouper. It's all written in .NET. These are some of my former coworkers from when I worked on Print Shop.
Wow, cool. It looks nice.
A couple of these guys went off to join another company, which is formed from the remnants of some of AOL's audio type business, and it allows file sharing. It's all done through secure encryption. It's an invite only system, so it's not like one of these public spammers. It's all your friends. And it gets the music is the one thing you can't download directly. Okay. Instead, you can stream it real time from one of your friends' hard drives.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like really neat. And it's got like a mini mail system and chat rooms, and I've met friends on it, new friends of my friends, right?
Huh.
So it's kind of like a combination of a file sharing app and one of those, and a chat system. Yeah, a chat system and personal invite system.
That is sweet.
What do they call those? Community type systems, and it's really great. I think it's the coolest thing written in .NET so far.
Wow.
It really exercises like every API you can think of.
Okay.
So, and it's peer-to-peer.
Awesome. And so, Glenn, how about you?
I'll be straight with you. If my kids don't download it from the network, it doesn't come in.
Okay. Been to a cool website that, not necessarily a download, but a cool website that caught your eye?
I'm an MSN user. Well, I live on MSN, and so my search is, I'm true blue all the way, gentlemen.
Okay.
He's a company man.
All right, I will relent then. What's the coolest thing on MSN these days?
Search.
Okay.
Search straight up, man. That's my work. I'm behind the closet over here. Like I said, in the last get big here at Microsoft has always been behind the wall, helping everyone out in front.
That's cool enough.
And so I could tell you a lot of stuff that you can hit on campus, but unfortunately you can't get to them from the outside world.
So why would somebody go to MSN search over Google?
It's much more comprehensive search than Google.
Really?
Yeah, because you get an outside. If you go with the toolbars, integrate.
Yeah,
you get an inside and outside search at the same time, and I kind of like that.
What does that mean exactly?
Oh, you could search your local assets and the outside world at the same time.
Okay.
When you search everything, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's the way that all search should be done.
Sure, because if you already have something on your machine, why would you go download it somewhere else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might even be cached already, and it's a great thing. I mean, there's the Google Desktop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as sweet.
Okay.
As MSN.
Grant, how about Lookout?
Lookout? Well,
Yeah.
That's not our product, is it?
No.
Utility you like, though.
I do like that.
You do like that.
So, it rocks a lot. That's a great
talk about Lookout, dude.
So is that like an alternative to Outlook? Lookout? What is it?
It's a search tool for Outlook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
www.lookoutsoft.com.
Okay.
Looks like there's an MSN on that. No, that's where I found it from. Hey,
Oh,
MSN search.
That is a MSN search deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's Lookout information.
Not just regular Lookout. It's an add-in for Outlook.
Lightning fast search for your email files. Okay, so is this like X1 kind of? Do you know what that is?
No.
X1 is a tool that I downloaded and installed like a year and a half ago. Chris Sells recommended it to me, which does file indexing and Outlook email indexing externally. It's separate. And I don't even bother to categorize emails in Outlook anymore and move them to folders. I just go and I type in, and as I'm typing, it's narrowing the search down. Sort of a lot like WinFS is supposed to do.
Yeah. What I find you have to look at those tools, and this is where Google falls short, is searching your archives. If you keep archives.
Right.
But I found that I can get the MSN search and Lookout to search my archives.
Well, that's
really great.
That's a good reason to use it.
That being said, Lookout was acquired by Microsoft in June 2004.
You guys just can't do it, can you?
So Glenn, you
could still get
missed
so
out.
much for that.
Totally missed out there. It's actually the same tool.
Oh, right.
Oh, shoot, how am I going to install it on other machines now?
You can still download it. I say it's a great tool, and I'm not even recommending a competing product now.
All right, well, you got any last-minute words of wisdom to impart on the listening audience? Grant?
Last-minute words of wisdom. I would say that, if you're a software developer, go to .NET as soon as you can.
That's pretty much a given with this audience, I think.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet.
It's sort of like preaching to the choir.
A little bit.
Yeah. and the other bits are, encourage your daughters and girlfriends and wives to become software engineers.
Cool.
Because there's not enough out there, and I'm afraid we're missing our Einstein.
That's right. And Michelle LaRue Bustamante is getting all the limelight.
Exactly.
Glenn?
I'd say I'd plug our site. Go up to msdn.microsoft.com, events, WAC Pack, and that's the Platform Adoption Center. You actually get a full scope about our facility. And how do you get here? It actually tells you how you can actually get here.
Yeah, we don't show up unannounced.
No, we won't let you in the front door.
We can't pop in.
Well, Carl, we might be able to make an exception, but...
All right, guys. How do you spell WAC Pack? Or is it just a whack as in a /
sorry.
PAC?
/ So
He's a nice man, really.
It's the whack pack.
mstn.microsoft.com / events / PAC.
Ah.
Well, I got to it the first try.
By typing whack pack.
I thought those are those little cardboard stickers that had products that with a bubble gum in them, that wacky packages, whack packs.
Oh, man.
And so if you're out there, you like this stuff, you like to be able to come here, that the developer evangelists in your area, your news or your community groups, great places
favorite blogger.
to get involved. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to come out and check it out.
The Scoville Channel 9 guys. Definitely, if you're not into Channel 9, haven't seen that, that's obviously a big place to get some serious exposure. And you get recognized for what you know and ultimately become like Grant and get invited in as an architect and be able to experience our facility of Building 20 firsthand.
Do you guys, have you been on Channel 9? Do you have Channel 9 videos about the pack?
Scott's got one posted for us.
I started to do one once. Scott did a great one. I started to do one, and there was a Java event, and I ended up getting in an argument with the merits of Java versus C#.
Oh, man.
In front of the camera. So needless to say, it never got posted.
Excellent.
Oh, well, it must have been a good video passed around on the inside.
This was like a major figure in the Java movement.
Oh.
I didn't know it.
You just walked right into it.
Ouch.
Yes.
Oops.
Well, listen, guys, on behalf of myself and Richard out there in British Columbia, Vancouver, Jeff Macielik in the sound room, and Grant and Glenn out there at the Platform Adoption Center, I'd like to say thank you for coming on the show, and thanks to all the listeners for tuning in every week. I'm Carl Franklin signing off. Have a great week, and what can I say? Come back next week on .NET Rocks.
By the FCC, yes, I'm a type of